You do have like a very glowy effect on TikTok.
I've got some filter on. I don't know how that's happening.
All right.
All right, and let me hit the open on YouTube. Here we go.
Hey, it's me.
She's a former mayor. They're a former evangelical pastor with dissociative identity disorder. These two like to talk about the topics you're not supposed to talk about. They might cause you to perspire just a bit, but they'll definitely make you inspired. Let's talk religion and politics, and what spirituality and emotional well-being look like in a post-evangelical world. This is Paul and Ashley on Evangelicalish.
Yes, it is.
Hey.
Here we are.
We are
live on Evangelicalish, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. We got it all covered. Right,
that music is so dramatic and so very, very loud right now.
All right, let me figure out how to get this. Yeah. Okay.
Hey.
And so I am Paul, known as Unconventional Pastor Paul on social media, and I comment on Christianity around the world, and also emotional and spiritual well-being. And that is my spouse Ashley, who is upstairs in our upstairs studio 1A. And
yes. I feel like if you're Unconventional Pastor Paul, maybe I'm like Conventional Ashley. I don't know. I need like a tagline or like a little like brand or something. But for right now, I'm filling in on Evangelicalish, and happy to do so. We decided this would be our summer of fun and
summer of
trying
swear
something
and
new.
gin.
Swear and gin, it's summer of fun. Yes, exactly. So yeah, I think this is week 3, and I think, or is it week 4? But it is finally the week where our audio seems to be working, and I don't think there are echoes. And others
so far, so good.
Listening, let us know if that's not the case. But good to see Doug joining us on YouTube, and Carol and Alex is here from Brisbane, Australia, joining on Facebook. Great to see.
Hi, Alex.
Alex.
And we want to remind everybody we're having a Zoom gathering right after the podcast, so make sure you sign up. You can go to our link tree on our social media platforms or on my Facebook, and I also posted it in the chat here in YouTube and Facebook. So RSVP will send you the Zoom link, and we're going to look each other in the eye. And we need to get to our guest real fast here. We have a guest jumping in with us for just a bit. And here we go. And Dennis, I see I did send you an email. Dennis, check your spam file if you haven't seen it yet. Rocky joins us. Hey, Rocky, what's happening?
Y'all look so good. You got the glasses, you got the smiles, you got the studio. I love
we
it.
are like baling wire and duct tape, though. Truth be told, we are barely like able to plug in and get on live. But I'm so happy you're here, Rocky.
Thank you.
Speaking of celebs, you are like Swear and Gin household celeb. We love your film. We love what you're doing, and yeah, really great to talk to you in person.
Thank you. I mean, speaking of celeb, not me. I mean, I've worked in the film industry for many years, and even on the big movie sets, we're still slapping it together with tape. So anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, no, things are good. I'm in Tacoma, Washington, and we have a group of supporters here, and actually the first money in to help support our mission, which is so important. And I'm staying in their home right now. And we do have to leave because we have a double feature tonight, back-to-back theaters, because our film sold out all 4 pre-screenings, and they opened up an additional 7, and we're like 10 seats away from being completely sold out all week. So it's pretty exciting. So tonight I have Q&As. Yeah.
I just want to let Ashley know that your typing is very loud when you type. So
me?
This is what I'm told. Well, I was just saying hey. I was saying hey to Dawn and hey to Peter. And but yeah, exciting news. So Tacoma, Washington is showing up for 1946, the movie. That is so cool. And is it too late for folks who may be seeing this to find a way to get down there and see it today?
Today is sold out. Tomorrow there's like a couple tickets in
Okay.
one of the screenings. Saturday there's about a dozen or something like that, or 10. It looked
Okay.
very few.
Wow.
So it's selling out fast. They're going to open an additional week in August. But if anybody wanted to watch the film, you can watch it at home right now on Eventive, and everything's linked in our bio on our socials or on our website on where you can rent the movie. So that's awesome. But we're all going on the road. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, we only have you for a short moment.
I know, I got to leave. Yeah.
We are getting ready to hit the road.
The
we are going to tour across the southern United States with a message of affirmation and inclusiveness using your movie and educational information around it. Tell everybody what's happening, and as quickly as you can before you have to walk out the door, how they can get involved and help.
Sure. So we're utilizing 1946 as a tool for civic engagement as we are driving voter registration for the 2024 election, and utilizing not only the film, but people like Unconventional Pastor Paul, who will be going with us, and community leaders in each city. We're doing and organizing 15 free public conferences. These are free conferences to the public. We want to open up and welcome everyone to a safe space where we have provided avenues to register and release the location later, and make sure that we're providing a safe space for people to engage in the idea that and understanding of how the Bible is being used and misused, not only in our nation, but around the world, and in ways that marginalize not only the LGBTQIA plus community, but other communities. And Paul will speak to this, and some other leaders will speak to local things that are going on in regards to book bans or pushbacks on trans rights or LGBTQ issues, all the things that we're seeing in our country. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to be nonpartisan. We're going to be very civil in the sense where we really just want to bring good information so you can make informed decisions in the election. So we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to film it, and it's going to be a wild ride.
And we're going to let people know that the Bible's not homophobic, just sometimes Christianity is. And
we'll explain how we got there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love it. I can't wait for us. We're RVing. It's 15 cities in 32 days, starting at the end of the month. Temecula, Phoenix, Oklahoma City, Frisco, Texas, Houston, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Sarasota, Pensacola, Jacksonville, Florida, Birmingham, Alabama, Memphis, Tennessee, Springfield, Missouri, Colorado Springs, Salt Lake City, Las Vegas. Did I get them all, Rocky?
You got it.
That's impressive.
Yes. So good.
That is impressive.
So good.
So if you're in or near any of those cities, reach out to Rocky or me and say, how can I help? There's GoFundMe. All of the free tickets to the events are online on Eventbrite, and you can get all of that through 1946 social media platforms.
Yep, everything's linked in our bio at 1946 on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And showing up and letting people know about it is the best way to support us. So let's make this awesome. We already have, upwards to 200 people registered in some cities. It's remarkable. Wow. The response has been just great. So we really want to cap out and max out each location. So let's do it.
And by the way, if anybody just wants to give us money and write like a $50,000 check, that would be awesome.
We have sponsorship opportunities too. So there are 3 sponsorship opportunities. You can play your commercial before we show the film, just like we see trailers and stuff at the movie theater. And then the other one is putting your logo on the side of the RV. So we're literally right now working. We just found a vinyl application person to put on the vinyl and going to design that graphic for us. So that's happening fast. 1946 the movie info@gmail.com. if you want to know more information about that. But we're so excited. Honestly, we can't sit back and do nothing. We have, we need to, I've always been known, they call me Rocky for a couple different reasons, but one reason is I've always been known to stick up as, for the underdog in the playground. And so it's like, don't be bullying my friends. I'm going to come after you. But this is a civic engagement. We really are looking forward to conversational and mind-changing, and people who are open to information. I'm sure we'll get a couple pushback people, but We're not coming in hot and angry. We're really just excited and encouraged by the things that we know and want to share.
I thought you were called Rocky because you're from Philly.
Well, yeah, that's a little bit of it too. My dad always wanted a boy, and he was going to name his boy Rocky, but I'm the closest to a boy he ever got. So it's a little bit of like, sorry, Dad, this is what you got.
Well, for folks who may not have seen the film yet, one of the things that I love so much about it, I think I've seen it 3 times. I could easily watch it another 3 times. Every time I watch it, like something else comes through to me. But it is such a loving and caring film. So like I have friends and family that, I'm thinking, how do I kind of bridge this conversation? And like, as much as I don't want their agenda coming at me, I also don't want them to feel like they can only relate to me if they're like listening to me tell them things I want them to think. And but this is a place where you can, like, it's really safe for people who may have very different views about LGBTQ issues. It's a very safe, loving, and welcoming film, and it doesn't it's exciting to see the adventure that you all go on to really try to unpack the use of the word homosexual in the Bible. It's awesome. I mean, you could literally anybody could watch it.
We have to let Rocky go so she can get to her event. But Rocky, since our evangelical friends do this, I'll just tell everybody that if you do write us a big check for the trip, you will get into heaven faster, or your purgatory will be shorter. So
I'm just kidding. I'm not Catholic, but anyway, yeah. Just to play on
all right,
that.
Rocky, thanks for jumping on, and I
Y'all
am so
awesome.
excited to travel with you on this adventure.
We're gonna have
Good
so
luck.
much fun. I can't wait. Y'all have a great one. See you later. Bye.
All right,
we'll see
bye,
you.
Rocky.
Ciao.
Yeah, looking forward.
I could throw back to my evangelism explosion days, and you could say, in answer to the question, if you were to die today and stand in front of God and he asked you, why should I let you into my heaven? You could say, because I sponsored 1946, the film. So maybe it's like we've all practiced taking the test and saying the right answer. And maybe we're like, oh, there's another answer to the quiz.
It's so funny because, we've been asking people for some support, and we've heard quite a bit back from people saying, no, we don't like to sponsor political things. And we're like, oh my gosh, on the right wing, churches and they sponsor political things all the time. They have an endless supply of money from the DeVos family and Hobby Lobby and the Koch brothers and all these guys. Like, why doesn't somebody give us money to do our thing? That's, everybody always accuses me of being sponsored by George Soros. I'm like, when does that check show up?
Exactly. If only
George must not have my Venmo address.
Well, hey, so it's Wednesday, and here we are, Ashley and Paul, on the Evangelical-ish weekly podcast, Summer of Fun. You guys are meeting and seeing Paul and I kind of figure out how to podcast together. We've been married almost 30 years. We have been learning to do a lot of things together over the last 30 years, and for sure in the last several years. But this is something we love to do. Paul and I think one of the things that really originally pulled us together back in 1993, our first date was June 16th, 1993. And we really came together around the radical message of love and transformation that we read in the Christian Bible. And that was whoa, you mean you believe in that kind of radical transforming? Like, yeah, I do too. Whoa, what would it be like if that kind of love was actually on display in our own lives, in our community, et cetera? And we're like, well, everything would change if we could really access that kind of love in our lives. And that began our journey together. Here we are 30 years later, and we're podcasting and talking about all kinds of crazy things we've experienced together.
And the topic of last week's show, and this is part 2, is we saw it coming, Christian nationalism. We saw it up close and personal. And so in our marriage and our shared mission, we read the Bible, and we were certain that if Christianity were active in a community, what that would mean is there would be less poverty, there would be equality of economic opportunity, redlining issues would be erased, and we would have justice for everyone. And we realized at some point along the way, as we're talking today, that that's not what other Christians thought would happen if Christianity was activated in a city.
But you know that feeling where you're like talking to someone and you're like, yeah, I agree. And like, like you think you're on the same page and then something happens and you're like, oh shit, like we are totally seeing things differently. That was 2016 for Paul and me. And even months and years leading up to that, we talked last week. If you haven't listened yet, you can go download the podcast from last week. We're calling this part 2, as Paul said. But we started telling our journey into this world where we were exposed to like major actors in the Christian nationalism movement. But at the time, we didn't know that's who they were. I don't even know if they necessarily knew who they were, that was what they were up to. But I always get this, like the way I would describe it is I feel like Paul or I or both of us were like Waldo in so many crowd scenes of like the Christian nationalism movement where we're just like in the background, eyes wide open, like, oh my God, is this happening? And now we're looking back on the people that we talked to and what we saw in 2012 at the National Prayer Breakfast and, meeting Doug Coe from the family and, oh my God, this happened. And then that happened. In my journey as a local politician in a nonpartisan office, being exposed to people in the local Republican Party, all realizing like, whoa, we are coming from very different perspectives. Anyway, we had so much fun talking about that stuff last week. It was like for, I think, Paul and me kind of, I don't know, just a little bit of a, walk down memory lane. But there were 2 big memories or experiences, Paul, that you remember that we didn't have time to talk about. So we wanted to pick back up on those things. And I was telling you, like, I think these are your moments. You should talk about these, and I'll do the color commentary.
Okay. And I want to mention, if you don't know about Doug Coe and the family, there is a wonderfully creepy documentary about them on Netflix that you could check out. But yeah, we had talked last week about how we were starting to say, hey, this political stuff doesn't look very good partnered up with the evangelical religion. And I was talking a lot about, guys, this doesn't look very good. But everybody was like, no, we're not prostituting our religion to a political party. We're just voting our godly values. And so I told last week, I voted for Barack Obama in the first Obama election. And that was against McCain Palin, if you remember Sarah Palin. And after
Tina
the
Fey
election
on Saturday Night Live,
Tina Fey, yes, after they had lost the election and Obama won, it was when I really began to see, like, we're not good people. We're not the good guys here.
We're not trustworthy. We're
Right.
not like people who are kind of the Christian political stuff. Like, it was like, man, these folks are not trustworthy with that sort of governmental power and authority.
And because you were in elected office as mayor of Fresno, and you're an attractive woman, every woman in politics, is told, you're an Esther, and Esther was very famous because she was hot and good at sex and made the king really like her. So not that you aren't any of those things, but I always told you, no, you're a David. But because all women in politics and evangelicalism are Esthers, Sarah Palin was also one of those Esthers. And she had an event up in Northern California. And some of our friends were going to meet with her, Christian friends. And they're like, Ashley, you need to come up and meet Sarah Palin, because of course you guys will hit it off since you're both Esthers. And so we went up to Northern California and met Sarah Palin. What was your impression of Sarah Palin when we met her? Well, actually, I should say she was on a Tea Party event giving a roundtable discussion the night before we went up. And we watched that thing and we're like, oh my God, this woman's awful.
Well, for any like political observers or like kind of, I don't know if this is your hobby or you like pay close attention to political history and drama, you may remember there was a moment where, because right after the election in 2012, Sarah Palin was still a very hot ticket, and she was, oh, we lost Paul on the TikTok feed. Are you still there? Okay.
Sorry, I'm here. My iPad just fell onto the floor.
Gotcha. Okay. Anyway, so do you recall when she gave a speech, and in her speech she used hand gestures, and she had written something on her hand, and people were zooming in to see what it was, and I don't recall what she wrote, but it was one of those things where the media was trying to speculate on what it was about, and she was like, "You people are so crazy to be so obsessed with me, and I probably just wrote my daughter's lunch order on my hand," or something like that. But you could tell she kind of did it on purpose.
You people in the lamestream media.
So it was, if anybody remembers that, it was the next day when we saw her. Yeah. So she was speaking at an industry event. She was the keynote speaker at this industry association event in Northern California. And so she walked onto the stage, and immediately showed her. I think I don't even recall, but she still had something on her hand as a joke or whatever. But that was her whole big thing for that particular day. It was her shtick. So my impression.
But we met her before she went out. And
was it before or after? I honestly don't recall. I remember
I think it was before.
Yeah. Okay. I remember sitting, there was off stage at a convention center in this local community. So it wasn't this fancy place or anything. And we were all sitting there. What I remember is what I remember thinking was, it's so weird that we're all the people who were the hosts for the event and the people who had invited us to be there were being so reverential and like that. And I was just it's just a person. B, she's not even that knowledgeable about stuff in the government and political world. And so, I'm not impressed, but whatever. That was my impression. But everyone was so excited to meet her. I do remember that.
And I always have respected you as a leader, and you had done amazing things already in economic development in our community. You're more than a pretty face. You made big things happen in Fresno while you were mayor. You cared about executing as an executive leader in our community. And I thought Sarah Palin, when we met her, she was very sweet. Her daughter was there, kind interaction. But I remember walking away thinking, there's nothing there. There is no there. Somebody on my TikTok feed just said, I can see Russia from my house. That is the description of her. I always wanted to fight back with no, that's not who my spouse is. This is some vapid governor of, Alaska, but some backwoods state who somehow somebody thought she was attractive or something and put her in there. And as we know, very quickly, Steve Schmidt, the head of McCain's campaign, was like, oh my God, we have made the biggest mistake of our lives bringing this person into politics and making her a big deal. So
at least according to Woody Harrelson in the later movie that was made about the whole situation.
No, Steve Schmidt wrote a book that then the movie.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But okay. So he did.
Which Woody Harrelson played Steve Schmidt.
Yes, I love that. So I also remember, people were being gracious to be like, oh, meet this person. She's serving an elected office down in Fresno. And she, Ms. Palin said hello or something like that. And then she made a comment well, kind of what are you doing in Fresno? And she's like, we need you in Washington, D.C. Come join us in D.C. And I remember thinking, well, you're not in D.C. So it's not your invitation to make. You're now a speaker at events. You don't have a platform. You're not a governmental leader. So I thought that was, I don't know. I get where she was coming from, but it was.
Yeah. I really did come away from that meeting thinking there's not a lot of content to that person. But what really struck me about the whole thing is, as I said, we had watched this interview with her the night before, and you and I were like, oh my God, this person is a nightmare. Because she was just always, the lamestream media, and she just had kind of these catchwords. There was no content, like I said, and so we were just like, oh my God. And then we went up to see our friends that were going to take us to meet, and they were like, oh, did you see that last night? She was amazing.
Yeah.
Wasn't she great?
So that, I think, I distinctly remember that conversation, because both you and I, again, we just are like struck with this impression of like, wait a second, what, like, we know these people, we trust these people, we say the same words, but all of a sudden we were starting to realize like, but maybe we are thinking very different things about the world around us. And that was one of those moments of like, oh, maybe not the same page, which brings us to our
to date ourselves. We used to say, this is like living in Green Acres. Now, if you're a young person, you probably don't know what we're talking about. But Green Acres was a show where this married couple from New York City moved to live in a farm in, I can't remember the name of the town.
Was the town Green? It was Green Acres, I think.
Green Acres. I thought that was the name of the farm. But anyway,
somebody can tell us.
They moved to
joining
Bug
us online.
Tussle, rural nowhere. And the wife, so like everybody was crazy in this crazy world. And the husband was the normal guy. And because he was normal, he was crazy. Everybody else was crazy. And even his wife had learned the language to talk to the pig. And so the man, played by Eddie Albert, was crazy because he was the normal person in a crazy world. And we just kept looking at each other and like, okay, we're the normal people in this crazy world. And everybody else around us is like, oh yeah, she's great. She's great. It was just really wild.
But similar to the show Green Acres, it's like everyone is so convinced around you that you're like, well, maybe it's me. The pet pig, Arnold the pig, Oliver, the husband, was like, that's a pig. It doesn't talk. And the wife was like, no, it's talking. So there is a point. Is Mr. Honey, Deb just says on Facebook, was Mr. Honey
Haney.
Mr. Haney.
Yeah.
That's right, Mr. Haney. And I'm pretty sure the pig was named Arnold. But it's funny because
yes, the pig was Arnold.
The pig,
you're right.
Right. I have heard the show Green Acres invoked probably dozens of times in the last year alone by people in, on various talk shows, etc., that are remarking on what is this season we're living in. So obviously people who say that are Gen X or older, because younger people don't know about Green Acres, but it is, I think, a kind of like starting to become a more universally understood, like, 2024 Green Acres. That is the name of this season in time.
And Ava Gabor was the wife on the show.
I thought it was Zsa Zsa.
No, it was Ava.
Ava,
it was her sister.
Okay.
Zsa Zsa's sister.
Zsa Zsa.
So what would to put the capper on us meeting Sarah Palin, where this whole event really left an impact on me, is that we then Mom to Doggo on TikTok says, I'm Gen X, I remember Green Acres. Yeah. And Raquel says it was Hooterville.
Oh, that's right, Raquel. Thank you for that. That good Green Acres knowledge coming in on the live feed. That's pretty impressive.
I could sing the theme song.
Oh, 100%.
Green Acres is the place to be. Farm living is the life for me.
I didn't even know the next line, but I'm going to spare everyone listening to this right now.
I could sing it all, but give me. It ends with his verse ends with, "Give me forget Manhattan, give me that countryside."
Countryside, yes.
And then she's like, "New York is where I'd rather stay." Anyway, we then go in to see her speak in this event. And just as we're like, this woman's crazy, insane, vapid, and our friend was like, isn't she amazing? Everybody in this audience thought she was amazing when I'm sitting here saying, this is one of the most vapid people I've ever seen in my life. And I remember, I can picture it so clearly in my mind, looking around and seeing 75-year-old men in suit and tie, like, woo, woo, every time she said some wacky nutball cracky thing. And it was the first time I really was like, oh my God, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. It was really that first time I thought, wow, this right-wing stuff isn't benign. It is really taking hold in people. And as these Northern Californians, we're just like, yeah, Sarah, you're the greatest. And I'm like, oh, wow, we are
Okay,
in deep
but let me
shit.
say, that is the difference between me and you, or one of probably several, is I still didn't necessarily, I think I held out this belief and this view that there was still a way to bridge that, like, okay, sure, get excited about Sarah Palin, whatever, but we can still agree on some fundamentals of like society and governing and things like that. I don't know. Maybe I was in denial. Maybe I wanted it to be true that we could still find a path forward. But I'll tell you this, just think about, so that was probably 2014, was it? Or 20, I think it was 2014. Because I was about to, or was on the campaign trail to run for
state office,
for state controller. I ran in 2014, and now here we are 10 years later. All right.
By the way, everyone, Ashley is the last Republican, or one of the last two Republicans maybe, to get anywhere near winning a statewide election in California.
I mean, there were like two or three of us that year: Pete Peterson, me, and then I forget the third. Those Pete Peterson and I did about the same, but then Lonnie Chan ran for state controller this last cycle, and he performed about the same. So,
okay,
like, you can't quite crack the ceiling, but
pretty much Schwarzenegger was the last Republican to win. Yeah,
that's right. Anyway,
so we're going to go into where we found out we really were in bizarro world.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, like,
take a break.
Crap. Okay.
You
final thought before the break is just think for a second, reflect on where we are today versus 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And what a dramatic, it's almost like we've been given over to our worst impulses, like there's like, that is kind of the like, and we're completely in, crazy town.
Right. Right, and I think it's important to note, out of what you're saying, Trump did not make this happen. Trump is a product of what was happening already. And he's the shyster carnival barker who was able to say, look at these crazy Christians. I could use these people. He's
benefited from it. He's manipulated the, the attitude, the spirit, the mindset. He's for sure learned how to puppet that and master it quite well. But yeah, it was, all this stuff has just been under the surface. So,
and Raquel says, honey, I love you, but give me Park Avenue.
Yes. Oh my God. We could just spend the rest of this time, like, thinking of the different snippets of the song. Think about it. It's like so catching. We all still remember it. All right, let's take a quick break. And I believe, do you have an ad for us, Paul, or do you want me to?
I can run an ad, and then you're going to tell people about how they can subscribe and join us for a Zoom hangout afterwards. But first, this message from our sponsors.
If Jesus were in America today, what would he say about the right-wing evangelical church? Pastor Paul's new novel, Religious Right, Religiously Wrong, a modern-day parable, answers this question in a riveting story of a mysterious miracle-working stranger who upsets a conservative, evangelical town with his critique of their political views. Will the pastor and people of the local megachurch listen? Or will the church crucify the messenger all over again? Religious Right, Religiously Wrong is the story America needs right now. James Fallows, writer for The Atlantic and former speechwriter for President Jimmy Carter, says Paul's book is very much worth reading and could not be more timely. Wayne Jacobson, co-author of the mega bestseller, The Shack, says this novel will confront fears and challenge the reader to a more excellent way of living and loving. Religious Right, Religiously Wrong, a modern-day parable, is available on Amazon or at our website, evangelicalish.com.
Okay.
All right. So that's it. And for those of you who are joining on TikTok, or I guess some, you can see it on our other channel platforms as well. That's the book just over my right shoulder, Religious Right, Religiously Wrong. And it's such a good story. You repackaged it and like added to it. And so even if you may have read it in the past, it might be worth picking up and reading again. But is an amalgamation. The characters are an amalgamation of people that we have known in our lives and things that we've experienced in real time here in our community of Fresno and Central California. And it weaves a story in a way that it's really powerful and compelling. And I laughed, I cried, etc. So
if you've ever wondered what would a Jesus incarnate in America today say to the evangelical church, religious right, religiously wrong is the answer to tell you what he would say. So FYI.
Yeah.
Pick up a copy.
So check out that. And I also want to mention, thank you so much for joining us here on Evangelical-ish. Wanted to let you know there is a super cool and easy way to get more information and more connection time with Paul, with me, with other things happening on the show. And it's called subscribing. Maybe you've heard of it. You can subscribe to this channel at evangelicalish.com, evangelicalish.com, all one word. And we'd love to have you on the email list. You'll hear about things, the private Zooms that we're doing, other things that will come up in the coming weeks and months. And just give us a way to stay connected. And it's free. But some of you who are listening are like, oh, no, I actually want to do more than just subscribe for free. I want to support what you're doing. I believe in Pastor Paul, what you're doing, the sacrifices you've made in your life, walking away from your steady day job as an evangelical pastor to be a voice among several and a prominent voice of former Christian evangelicals who are saying, like, actually what's going on around us is not okay. And it's just not the spirit of Jesus or Christ. So you can support the work of Evangelicalish and Pastor Paul by going to evangelicalish.com. $4.99 a month is a supporter. And some of you are super fans out there. Fanatics may want to support at $15.99. Some of you have actually made that commitment, and we're so grateful. And Paul, you wanted to give a shout out to some of those folks.
I did, but of course I don't have the list in front of me now. So thank you all who have signed up. And as Ashley was mentioning, we have Zoom Hangouts from time to time. And tonight is one of those nights. So if you would like to join us on the Zoom Hangout, you can go to evangelicalish.com. Oh, wait a second. Did I put it on there? For those of you on YouTube and Facebook, I have just again posted the link to where you can RSVP, and I will get it on the website as well. Or if I haven't gotten the link up on the website, there is a way you could go to contact us and send your note in, and we'll get the Zoom link to you. But immediately when we finish this podcast, we're going to hang out together on a Zoom hangout and just talk about spirituality beyond the walls of the Christian church together.
And I want to make sure Dennis got his link. He was very, very kind to let us know that he had not yet. And I know you said you emailed it. So hopefully that's gone through. And also in the Zoom later on, I'm looking forward to just hearing from folks as to what they think is interesting about Evangelicalish, what are topics that are important to them, and kind of give us a chance to hear directly from you and, make plans to plan some cool shows and just have your involvement. One last thing, and then we're going to go back to our regularly scheduled show. You want to run the ad for the 1946 road trip?
Okay. All right. Let's do it. Going behind the Iron Curtain here, right? Like deep Alabama, Florida.
Yep.
I am so excited to share our plan to utilize the award-winning documentary 1946, The Mistranslation That Shifted Culture, as a tool for civic engagement and to drive voter registration for the 2024 election. Our mission is to facilitate outreach by organizing 14 free public conferences in U.S. cities highly impacted by extremist ideologies. The primary objective of these assemblies is to activate the audience to vote, as we engage in thoughtful civil dialogue about mistranslation weapons that are often used against LGBTQIA plus people. This doesn't just affect the LGBTQIA plus community. This stretches into voter rights, reproductive rights, desegregation, women's rights, and so forth. Please reach out to 1946themovieinfo@gmail.com to get involved, help us coordinate, hire, and promote the events in your area. Or you can donate to the GoFundMe and help us pay for the crew, gas, lodging, security, food, all the things to get us on the road for the 35 days needed to hit all 14 cities. See you on the road.
Yeah, and since we made that ad, it's now 15 cities because we've added Jacksonville, Florida. So yes, you can help. And as I was telling people here, if you write us a wonderful check, who writes checks anymore? Who was it I heard? Oh, I was at Target the other day, and Target now will not take checks anymore.
Well, honestly, it really bugs me when people ask me for a check for something. It's like, who even has those checks? I mean, I can send a check from our bank, but I'm not going to like get a checkcheck out and write it.
I wouldn't even know where a checkbook is anymore.
Well, that's part of the problem. We lost our checks. That's a good reason why we're not writing
if you give us a big digital check, I'm just telling you, you'll get in heaven faster or get out of purgatory in a shorter amount of time.
Exactly. We don't have that much more time for this particular episode of our podcast because we are going to go right into that super cool Zoom at 7:00 Pacific. So we had a few more things we were going to tee up for all of you, and kind of reflecting, like bookending the conversation around like Paul's and my journey and seeing this Christian nationalism movement up close and personal. That's kind of like the world out there. And I think we're just living in a time where all these crazy things, I mean, I know for us, for Paul and me, it's like made us go inside and like, kind of consider our own lives, have our own reflections, our own deconstruction and reconstruction journey. So maybe let's spend the next few minutes just doing that, like kind of set aside the realities of what's happening outside of us and talk about our own spiritual journeys.
Yeah, but we do need to tell the other story, right? Because we pubbed it before the break.
Oh, for crying out loud, we still haven't told that story.
So
this is a good one. I mean, this is actually a very like jaw-dropping, but sadly not a surprising story.
Yeah. And I do want to add, by the way, Dennis says he still doesn't have a link. Well, Dennis, as soon as I get done with the show, I'll shoot the email to you again and we'll make sure you get it. So I want to see you in the Zoom for sure. So if you go RSVP, we will get you the link as soon as we're off with the podcast here. And I want to say we're telling this as our journey from evangelicalism, but also we're going to start telling some of our personal story down the line here because, hey, we're all on a journey, and unmooring ourselves from evangelicalism started to give us a chance to look inward in ourselves, as we were never allowed to do in evangelicalism. And it's caused quite a kerfuffle in our life that we're still trying to work through. And we think probably we're not the only ones that's happening to. So we'll talk more about that down the line. But so I leave that Sarah Palin event in, you think it was 2014?
I'm pretty sure it was 2014.
Okay. I thought it was not long after the election.
It was 2012 was the election, so it wasn't. No,
hers
you're right.
Was 2008.
Yeah, because it was Romney in 12.
Right.
Well, maybe it was before.
I think it was.
Okay,
yeah.
It might have been like 2010-ish.
Yeah, I think you were fairly new in the mayoral
I think
role,
you're right.
So it was there, and that was when I really saw, this. We didn't call it Christian nationalism then. This right-wing Christianity, this Fox News Christendom is really a problem. I saw this, and I really started calling it out to people around me, and they were like, "Oh no." But then one day, and this would have been, what do you think, 20?
Oh gosh.
let me just say, I got attacked by people in our church because I didn't teach about chemtrails, where President Obama is poisoning us with chemtrails, and somebody else was, I am a constitutionalist, and you really need to be teaching about the Christian roots of our nation, those things. But one day, a very good friend of ours, people we loved as much as we've loved anybody outside of family in our life, I think. He reached out to us. He's a prophet. He was on the Elijah list. Oh my gosh, we didn't contact our friend who worked for the Elijah list. We'll have to do that. But he's on the Elijah list, prophetic, telling things from heaven in our lineage of Christianity. And we really loved and trusted this person. And he called me one day, or maybe emailed, I don't remember exactly, but he said, "Oh, you've got to check out this thing called QAnon. You've got QAnon. It's really what's happening in the world." And he sent me these links with 4 hours of video about QAnon on YouTube. And because I loved this person so much, I gave up 4 hours of my life.
And what was it? It was like the Good Medic or something like that. What was
medic. It's
something.
praying medic. And they're like, "Oh, he's been on the stage at Bethel in Reading," which was kind of our sister church and
our mothership.
And praying medic, that's what it was. I watched 4 hours of praying medic to explain these messages from QAnon and what they meant. And that is 4 hours of my life I'll never get back. And I reached out to our friend and I said, frankly, I'm sick to my stomach having watched this. I need to take a shower. I feel so grimy. I said, there is nothing that resonates with the spirit of heaven in me with what I watched. And so he says to me, "Well, I'm telling you that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama will be in prison in Guantanamo by the end of 2018, or I will never prophesy again." This was the statement then. That was in an email. And we just so happened to end up having lunch with these wonderful folks on New Year's Day of 2019. And they start talking QAnon to us again. And I'm like, wait a second, you said Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama would be in prison by the end of 2018, and they're not in Guantanamo in prison. And what did he say? Well, you don't know that. You don't know that. They may be.
Well, and let me say,
along with John McCain, who isn't really dead, that was all a fake,
So it was one of the moments I was most proud of you, Paul, because it was a very difficult conversation to have. These are people who had been precious to us. And kind of as we've been talking about throughout this show, the moment where you realize like how you're so totally on opposite pages with people who are like close to you, like family. And so you're having to say, and they so valued the QAnon world and the messaging, and they just had gotten so into it, like head over heels into the depths of this stuff. And so it was precious to them. And you were coming along to like kind of put a boundary up, but you were so kind. And that I remember it like it was yesterday. And what you said was, we sat down, we were excited to see each other. Hi. We had driven from Middle California. They had driven from Southern. We were meeting for like a late, kind of a brunch on New Year's Day, et cetera. It was great to see them. And
while our kids were going to Magic Mountain.
That's right. And in they went on the like da 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 and QAnon blah blah blah, and like the feverish kind of like blah, 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 like that. And I remember you just kind of like put up your hand and you just said, "Hey, I just want to stop you right there. I want to let you know I've listened to the 4 hours that a video that you sent us. I just want you to know that is not for us." And that's all you said, like that, just like, it is not for us. And it was kind, it was gentle. And the look on this couple's face, they were like, like you had slapped them or something. And all you were doing is saying like, just stop right there. that is not the path we're going down. And then you kind of followed it up with, I don't see anything Christ-like in this, and da, da, da. And then, so then they backpedaled a little bit, but they continue to try to like make the case. And yeah, said things like if I hadn't been sitting there and observed it myself, if you'd have come home and said, so-and-so said that John McCain is not really dead, that Barack Obama, in fact, is in prison right now. And because we had said like, well, we just saw like their family Christmas card on Twitter. So I kind of think they're like,
I don't know if you remember this, but he was saying, well, they're probably already in prison. We just don't know yet. And then the wife of our friend, she said, oh, but he just posted on Twitter with a picture of their Christmas card or something. And he was like, oh, well, that could be scheduled. That could, something.
Yeah, he's like, we don't know that's real. All of this. Okay. They went
and then I very kindly said, hey, do you remember that you told me if that what was going to prove this true was the Clintons and Obamas being in prison in Guantanamo for PEDO.
Yeah.
And John McCain as well. They believed everybody everybody left of Rush Limbaugh was a pedophile.
Yeah.
And I said, you told me if they're not in prison by the end of the year, you would never prophesy again. And I think he sort of denied it. And so I had to show him the email. And that really sort of threw him. But the crux of it all is now this wonderful person that we loved is constantly on social media saying, time to build the gallows on Pennsylvania Avenue and hang people. And it's just so sad what this right-wing Christianity did to really good people.
And if you'll recall, you had reached out to this person, like, let's say we were meeting in January. This was like fall of the previous year. And and you sent them a copy of your book and you're like, hey, I'd really like to get your feedback on this. And obviously your book is challenging and provoking of the religious right. So you were like kind of reaching out as a little bit of a spiritual mentor, cover, whatever. You're like, hey, this is what's on my heart. I'm looking to put this story out. And that's when this person responded and said, don't publish your book yet.
Right.
Because by the end of the year, Hillary Clinton will be in Guantanamo. That was the deal. He's like, you're going to feel embarrassed and like your story's not going to land well because all this bad stuff about Hillary Clinton is true. And it's going to be proven so by the end of the year.
It was very lovingly patronizing. Like, I understand why you think this, but you don't really know these inside secrets that Q is sharing with us. And I've been sharing, like, Christians were groomed for this. We were groomed to believe in the abject ridiculousness of end of times, left behind, all this stuff. And so QAnon was just for many a natural leap into the next thing of God giving us revelation that other people don't have.
But let me add to this, because I think this is a little bit of a clue, and I'm going to be slightly vague to protect the innocent, although I doubt anybody listening to this would ever be able to track what the circumstances were. But in the
those directly involved
aftermath of you saying, I just want you to stop right there. That's not for our family. We're, and there's a little bit of backpedaling, this, that. Then they shared that there was a time in their past when they were involved in a faith community that was a very tight-knit faith community, very trusting, all of the things you would expect positive from this faith community. And it came to light that there was sexual misconduct and abuse of children, young people in the church by leaders of ministries. Right. And that was such a shocking and rocking thing for them that it planted in them this idea of like, whatever you think is happening on the surface isn't. It's not true. It's not real. There's something really dark and sinister underneath. And like, it was interesting to me that they put, like, there was this reflection of like, well, we're kind of susceptible. I'm now, these are not the words that were said, but it was almost a little bit of like, maybe why we're kind of vulnerable to this is because we went through this thing that was so traumatic for our family and for the faith community we're a part of. And it kind of all comes back to that. It's, now talking about the system and no one person, but like the abuses, the abuses, the sexual abuses, the power abuses, all the abuses of the church are in fact what set its congregants and its members and its followers up to perpetuate abuses of the same and different sorts. And everything they say is like, we're the people who are right because we're fighting against this kind of PEDO. We're fighting it, but it's in your own house.
Yeah.
It's the calls coming from in the house.
Yeah. And you said they might have said they were vulnerable because of this. What they actually said in not so many words is we have more wisdom about this than you do because, and they basically had to leave this community they were working in because they called out this bad behavior. And it is, I keep trying to tell our right-wing friends, no, the PEDOs are in your house, not in the White House. They're in the church house. They're in the Sunday school class. So we no longer have those folks as friends, which is truly sad. And this is where, I think Donald Trump is not an intelligent person, but what he is a huckster and a carnival barker, and he saw something in this evangelical movement that he's like, oh, I can use these people. I can shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and they will still love and support me. And it has worked beyond, I would suspect, his wildest imagination. Yeah.
So, oh God, now I just feel heavy from considering all of that.
Johnny on YouTube says, not only are Barack and Hillary alive and well, Michelle Obama is running in 2018.
LOL. I think that's a joke.
Oh, okay.
The conspiracies of many.
And that Michelle is a man, right? That was one of the
I haven't heard that.
That was one of the big QAnon things too.
So yeah, I would have no idea because I literally have never wanted my eyeballs to see that stuff. Hey, so it's right at 7:00 Pacific. We said we were going to jump off right on time because we have our Zoom scheduled. And we didn't even get to the next kinds of stuff we were going to talk about. So we'll have to roll that into next week. So next
that may
week,
be a regular problem for us, I think.
Obviously, we are both high verbals, but you were saying next week you may not work. Is that right? Next week?
So I have some big dental work being done next Wednesday.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
But
well, it depends on your mouth, I guess.
It depends on my mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go. All right. We are going to jump into our Zoom-ish hangout. You can go to all of my platforms at Unconventional Pastor Paul. There's a link tree with a link for you to RSVP. We'll give you 5 minutes before we'll jump on there. And Suzanne says, I hope I can figure out Zoom. All right, Suzanne, all you got to do is click on it and download the program. And so we will see all of you on Zoom. Again, if you want to join us, go to Unconventional Pastor Paul on any of the socials. Click on my bio, the link tree, and the link to RSVP will be there, and we will shoot you the Zoom link. All right. We sign off on YouTube and Facebook. Bye, guys. We'll